What is going on, guys? In this video, we're going to be creating this awesome portfolio tracker. I'm going to walk you through step by step so you can have this as well. You can see there's 4 tabs here. This is my dashboard. This is my history tab or my general ledger of every single transaction I've made in my brokerage account. This is my positions tab, and then this is the breakdown of all the positions I own. Now, here's one thing I want you guys to understand. If we go over to positions, you could see right here, this function, you're not going to find this function in Google Sheets alone. We are actually going to go into the script editor of Google Sheets and create this function. Don't get intimidated by that. It's very simple. I'm going to walk you through it step by step. But before we do that, just so you understand how this all works, let's jump back to the dashboard really quick. You could see we could track all of my portfolio balances, what my account is at with all the positions, cash, my daily change, my unrealized gains, my realized gains. I get to take a little tax write-off with that. My portfolio stats, you could see the number of trades I made, shares owned, my average cost per share, just all of these fun little stats that I have here. My money hourly salary, this would be the equivalent of how much money I have made if I were working, say, a full-time job, 40 hours a week. So my portfolio has made me the equivalent of $8.18 an hour this year. I think that's cool to track. We got my balance breakdown, how much cash I have compared to positions, my portfolio performance, every single stock and how they're performing. We could see Shopify's at the top, then Etsy, Square, and PayPal all over 100% this year. And then right here, we have a quote breakdown. So here's all of the stocks I own. If we click on one of them, how about Etsy? All of this will update. I could see the current stock price, all of the useful stats on it, and then a 12-month trend. Let's jump over to history. And one thing I want you to understand here is we're only manually punching stuff into this tab. No more going to your positions, going to the shares, typing in the number, whatever it's going to be. Oh, I buy another 5 shares of Apple, and now I need to figure out what my dollar cost average is. No more of that. Instead, you go to your history tab, you put it in here, and it will automatically update here. For example, let's look at PayPal. So PayPal is at $45. Not $45. PayPal, I own 45 shares at a dollar cost average of $86. Let's go to history. Let's say I buy more PayPal today. So PYPL, we're going to say I buy, and I buy, say, 10 more shares for $200. We do that. Let's go back to positions. It updates it here for you. 55 shares, $107. We go to dashboard. This updates as well. I now don't have as much cash available, and my position obviously went down. My return, because my dollar cost average went up. Everything updates, and here's the even cooler part. Let's say instead of buying 10 more shares of Apple, I sell my entire position. So I had 45 shares. Let's say I sold my 45 shares for a $200 return. If we go to positions, PayPal is no longer on the list. It sells it for me, and then my dashboard updates as well. You can see now my realized gain shot through the roof because I sold off all my PayPal shares. And then my balance breakdown, you can see now I have more cash available as well. So everything is dynamic in this. Everything is automated. And the only thing you're punching in is this section right here as you're updating, buying more and selling more shares, or getting drips. So you can see any dividend stocks, I need to just put in the drips, and then that will all update as well. So before we go into exactly how to make this, guys, all I'm going to ask is for you to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, check out my channel, go to my Discord, and if you want to support me, you could check out my Patreon as well. But let's dive right in. Brand new slate. First thing we're going to do is we're going to hit the plus button 3 times. So we have 4 sheets. We're now going to name the sheets. So we're going to rename. One of them is going to be dashboard. The next one is going to be history. We're going to name this one positions, and then the last one, breakdown. And we're going to start with the history, because without the history tab, nothing else will work. So the history tab is probably the easiest one to make. Go all the way to F, merge those cells, name this transactions, or whatever you want to name it. So we're going to name that transactions. I'm going to center it, make it bold if you want. All right, and then what we're going to have here is date, security, action, quantity, price, and total. So once we have that, again, if you want, go ahead and you could center it, bold it, do whatever you want. I'm going to cheat here a little bit, and I'm just going to copy and paste what I already have in my histories tab, because I'm sure you guys don't want to watch me put in 177 entries. So I'm going to highlight all of this. This is my TD Ameritrade brokerage account and everything I've done this year. So we're just going to copy that. We're going to go Control-Shift-V. So now all that paste in. And the only thing I had different in that one is for the actions, I actually had a drop-down menu. So if you go to data validation and then change this to list of items, we could put everything in. So we have a deposit. We have buy, sell, drip, and what else do we have? Withdrawal. So if you need to take any cash out of your brokerage account. And then last one, dividend. You may get dividend payments and maybe your drip isn't turned on, so you might want to have that as well. We're going to hit save. So there's that. All right, there we go. So now everything is in here. Here's all the transactions I made this year. I'm just going to center everything. We could worry about the colors later, but this is everything. So now I could add to it if I wanted to. Go down here, say add a new entry, whether I'm buying or selling something, whatever it might be, depositing more money or getting a drip. But now that that is done, it takes some time to punch in all of your entries as well. That's the only tedious thing. You can download your maybe you could download a file from your brokerage account. I know TD Ameritrade allows you to do that, since it's a little bit easier of just copying, pasting it into it. But let's jump on to now creating the positions tab. All right, so after we're done with history, now that we're in positions, the first thing you're gonna do is just make this up at the top. This is everything that I have in here. If you want to pause the video and then make yours look like this, then go do that. But we're just going to do this, bold it, maybe make it a little bit bigger. Again, we'll worry about the colors later. But now that this is all in, we can make the script or the code. Again, don't get scared by it. It's not hard. You're going to go to Tools and then Script Editor. And then it should bring you to something that looks like this. So we're going to keep the function here, but instead of my function, we're going to rename it. And I want to name it MyPortfolio. You can name it whatever you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but we're going to keep that here. And then in this, we're going to do tickers, comma, values. Everything's lowercase. Then with that squiggly bracket, we're going to go on the other side of it, hit enter. Then we're going to do var, lowercase, total equals square bracket, hit enter, var, sums equals squiggly bracket. So what do we got going on here? Well, essentially, this is creating, this first line is right here, is creating the function and sets the parameters. And then these vars, or variables is what they're called. The first one is your final list, and that's what this square bracket is. That represents a list. And then this one is a dictionary or a map that you will use to filter through everything, and then it'll bring it into your final list. If you're not a coder, and trust me, by all means, I am not a coder either, it might be confusing, so just try to bear with me and just kind of copy what I got going on here. I'll try the best I can to explain what's going on. So this is going to be the next function. It's going to be a for loop. So we're going to do for, and then we're going to do I equals 0, semicolon, I is greater than tickers dot length, semicolon, I plus plus. Now, for all you coders out there, you already know what this is. But for you novices, let me just kind of sum it up. It's this is the most common code to get through a list start to finish, and it's a for loop. So again, if you're lost, don't worry too much about it. You can take some time and maybe do some research on your own to learn about all these new topics that's going on here, because there's going to be a lot of information all at once. So we're going to hit enter and then indent it, and we're going to create another variable. So var t equals tickers square bracket I dot to string parentheses. So what this line is doing is it's saying, hey, pull all the securities in the list and return them as strings. So we have two different sets of values. We have numbers and then words. So in coding language, string means word. And we want the tickers to obviously be a string, not a value. So then we're going to hit enter again. And we're going to do another, no, this is actually our first if statement. You guys should by now kind of understand ifs because we use them in Google Sheets all the time. We're going to do if open parentheses t exclamation point equals, and the exclamation point equals actually stands for does not equal cash squiggly bracket enter, and then we're going to do another if statement. If t in sums, another squiggly bracket, hit enter, sums t plus equals numbers values square bracket I, and then we're going to not hit enter, but I'm going to use my down arrow because we want to be on the other side of that little dictionary or the squiggly bracket. We're going to hit enter, and then we're going to do else squiggly bracket enter sums t equals number values square bracket I. Whoops, not sorry about that. Number, we need to make sure we're in our brackets or parentheses, whatever you want to call them. Values square bracket I. Okay, we're going to stop here for a second. We still have a little bit left, but this is pretty much, we're 75% done. And you can see this really isn't that much. You can pause this video, copy what I have here. But what did we just write down here? What is all of this? Well, we understand what this is saying. This is saying, hey, take your tickers and return them as a string. We got that. But this is saying, okay, if tickers, so T, right? You have a T here, and then we have a T there. So it's saying if tickers is not equal to cash, then execute this function. So it's taking all the things that aren't cash, which then would be our actual tickers, like if we were to type in Apple or PayPal, Target, whatever it might be, then it's saying, hey, execute this. And what this is saying right here is it's saying add the number of shares that we have to the current shares for that ticker. And then it's saying if there is none in the list yet, then add that ticker to the list and then put shares in. That might be a little confusing. Just take my word for it. That's kind of what's going on here. So we're almost done. After we have all of this, what we want to do is we need to add one more squiggly bracket there. Not there. So actually, right here, I missed a squiggly bracket. It needs to be right here. And then this little guy needs to be all the way down here. There we go. Then we're going to hit enter. This is the last part, another for loop. So we're going to do for var ticker in sums squiggly bracket if sums ticker is greater than 0, total dot push ticker comma sums square bracket ticker. And that's not supposed to be squiggly. That's also supposed to be just a regular bracket like that. That's supposed to be a square. Yeah, these aren't supposed to be that. That's supposed to be square. Just making sure my code is all right. Good. And then the very last one, jump down to this second one. I'm on line 25. Hit enter. Then we want to return total. Now that was a little sloppy, but that should be it. And what this code right here is saying is now we want to take the list and only return the tickers that are greater than a value of 0. So it's taking the sums. So say we bought Apple and we have 10 shares. 10 is greater than 0, so we want to return that. Let's say then it's going through the list up here and it says, oh, they bought PayPal, they bought 10 shares of PayPal, and then they sold 10 shares of PayPal. PayPal is 0 now. So there's 0 shares. We don't want to return that. We don't want anything that's zeroed out. So that's all that's saying down there. But if you want to pause the video, copy this code down. Look at that. It's only 27 lines. I told you it wouldn't be that bad. Take the time to do that. We could then save and hit run. It's going to execute. You're going to see something that says an error. Don't worry about that. If we now jump back and in our tickers section, this is where we get to plug in our function that we just made. So you're going to type in MyPortfolio, and then we're going to be pulling from the history tab. So it's going to be history exclamation point B3 to B1000 comma history exclamation point D3 to D1000. Hit enter. It's loading. Boom, there's all of our stocks right there. If you want to then take this and maybe drop this down to either 1 or 2 decimal points. I think 2 decimal points are good. Could also highlight all of this. Make it all centered. Guys, that is the hardest part. The hard part is over. Congratulations. You just wrote a code. This is your first time writing a code. Again, congratulations. It's not as hard as it seems. It's just a lot of information that we need to take in at once. You can X out of this. Never need to look at that again because now this is set. If we go to history, everything's hooked up to history now, okay? That function we just made. And just to show you that it works, so actually, let's get rid of that. If we go back to positions, you can see here's PayPal for 45 shares. If we then go in here and hit buy and then PYPL, and then say we buy 10 shares for not $2,000, $200. That would make this 2,000. Hit enter. If we go to positions, you see PayPal's now at 55 shares. If we did -10, because not -10, -45, because we sold all of our PayPal, it's not on there anymore. We could see Google is for 1 share. So let's just do Google. And then if we were to do -1, hit enter, we go back to positions, Google's now gone. So you could do that just to make sure your list works. And then before I'm just gonna, there we go. Before we finish up positions, there is one thing I realized that we have to do, and total actually has a function that we need to put in. So let's actually delete all of this. You guys don't have this, but I just realized I need to do this. We're just going to cheat here just to get this. So here's this. Here's the function. It's equals if is blank B3. And then we want to do the absolute of E3 times D3. So here is D, which is the value. We only have 1. And then this is E. So it's just taking that, multiply it by that, and giving our absolute value. And this is important for when we're selling. So see, here's a stock I sold. So I sold it, and because this is negative and the price was $2.04, the only reason why it's negative is to help us with the code we just created. But then we want it to return a positive value. This is just so everything will work. So what you could do is you could pause the video, or you could just copy this from below in the description. Let's go back to our new sheet. And I'm just going to paste that function right in and then autofill. And now that's all good. And then I'll even drop this function down. And we do the if is blank just so everything has it. All right, so now we are done with that. So what we have so far is every single trade we have made, every single transaction. So again, that is if you're depositing cash, if you're buying a stock, if you're selling a stock, if you're getting a drip, all of that's now added in. We have this quick little function, and then we go over to positions, and we have our custom function we made in the script editor. Hard part is over. That was arguably the hardest part. The rest is easy. So let's jump right in and fill everything else out. All right, so we're going to start with purchase. And purchase is going to be a little lengthy here. We're going to be using a weighted average function, but first we do the if is blank. So if is blank, A3, right? So if this is blank, we don't want to return anything, but you can see it's false because clearly it's not blank. So that's all that's saying. If A3 is blank, then return nothing. But if it's not blank, then here's the function we want. So we want the average. So we want to do average dot weighted, and we're going to want a filter. So we're going to add a filter. I'm going to be pulling from the history tab again. So history, exclamation point, we're going to want the E section. So we could go back to history, and we want this section right here, which is our price. So at history E, comma, we go back to history, and then we're going to want the B section, and then hit equals A3. So what this is saying, this filter is saying, hey, if anything in the B section is equal to A3, which for us is Apple, let's go to positions, C, Apple. If it's equal to Apple, then return, well, not return, but filter all of these numbers from the E. So go through, okay, we have Apple right here, $39.98. And then what we want to do, we're not done with this code. We then want to do comma, history again. So let's go back to history. And we're going to want the D section. And then we want it to be greater than 0. So what that's saying is if we sell it, obviously we don't want it. So if it's a negative, then we want to do comma, another filter, open parentheses, and then we want to do D again, comma, B equals A10, not A10, A3, comma, D, and then again is greater than 0. And then we need 1, 2, 3 parentheses at the end. Let's just make sure this is right. Did I have a spelling error right here? We want that weighted. There we go, 80. We hit enter. And that is my dollar cost average. Let's make that a money sign. And now we could drag this down. Our purchase price is done. You can check your brokerage account and make sure that's right. This is pretty right, give or take a couple of cents. So, I mean, it works. And again, this is just taking the weighted average. It's taking all of the shares you own and then all of the prices of those shares and then dividing it between the two. So then we could get our dollar cost average. Now we're going to move on to price. It's going to be a nice, easy one. As always, we're going to start off with the if is blank. If is blank, A3. Okay, and then some good old Google Finance. So finance, A3, comma, price, close, hit enter. There we go. You guys should all know that by now if you've watched any of my other videos. Probably the most basic function out there. And now we move on to the change price. So for the change, we're going to do if is blank. And we want to add an equals there. If is blank, A3. And we want to do Google Finance again. Google Finance, A3, comma, change PCT. And then what we want to do is divide it by 100. Close that off, hit enter. It's loading. There's all of that. We could drag this down as well and make that a percentage. And now for the dollar change, it's going to be very similar to what we already have. So to save some time, we're actually going to copy and paste this function. So hit copy. We're going to paste it into here, except instead of change PCT, we're going to get rid of the PCT. And then instead of divided by 100, we are then going to multiply it by the amount of shares that we have. So it'd be, in this case, B3, hit enter. So then that's going to be my dollar change throughout the day. So I'm going to do that and we will make it into dollars. So you can see right now with Apple, I'm down $30 today. In PayPal, I'm up $1. So now we're going to move on to our cost. Cost is going to be another easy one. I'm just going to copy and paste the if is blank so we're not typing that a million times. And we're going to paste it into here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do we're going to do C3 and multiply that by B3. So you can see we're just multiplying our purchase price times the amount of shares we own. I'm going to hit enter, and that is the cost of all the shares of Apple I have. Drag that down, and here's all of my cost. Then we're going to do value, and value, again, we're going to do the if is blank, and then now it's going to be D3 multiplied by B3. Hit enter. This is the current value. Drag that down. Now the gain is going to be, again, whoops. I want to copy that if is blank. I'm going to put the if is blank into gain. And then what we want to do is D3 minus C3. Then we want to divide it by C3. So this essentially is giving us what our return is, our overall return percentage-wise. So we can take that, drop it down, and go to that. So you can see I am up 166% on PayPal, up 65% on Apple. I'm down 5% on SPGI. And then last but not least, we have our gain. So our gain is going to start off with the if is blank. And then we're going to do H3 minus G3, which is pretty straightforward. I don't think I need to explain that. We're just taking our value and subtracting it from our cost. So we can see here's how much money we've made or lost per stock. So at this point, if you want to start adding some colors in, we could do that, because this is the hard part's over. Now we get to make it look nice. We get to add our dashboard, but let's just start adding colors. So usually what I like to do is I make that a nice dark blue. This will be white. Highlight all of these, and we'll make this a little bit lighter blue, something like that. Take these three, and again, you don't need to do what I'm doing. You could make your own colors, but this is what I like. And actually, don't even do that. Before you add colors, go down and even more than what you have. Well, before we even add colors, one thing I forgot about, you can see right here, we want this even more, right? We want to keep on going down with this function. So don't just stop with how many stocks you own. Bring this down a decent amount, or how many stocks you think you'd possibly own at once. So maybe I want to own 100 shares at one point. And you want to do that for everything. So you want to go through every single one and just bring the function down. And you'll see why in a second. So I'm taking every function and bringing it down. Okay, now that they're all down, the reason why we did that is if we go to history, what if we were to buy another stock? Let's say we were to buy Target. So Target, buy, I don't know, 10 shares at $200. If we go back to positions, you now see Target is added in right there. So there's Target. Google got pushed down to row 17. So if we want to continue to buy more stocks, our list is going to get longer. We just want to make sure our functions are in place so it could handle more. So watch, we could add another one, say Walmart. So Walmart is a buy, say 10 shares for $150. Go to positions. See that Walmart's now there. So you just want to make sure you have the function going down enough for however many shares you want to end up owning. I don't think I'll ever own 100 shares. At that point, I would just buy an ETF. But you may want to, which there's nothing wrong with that. And now at this point, what we actually want to do is take all of this and we want to get rid of that color. And instead, keep it highlighted, right click, go to Conditional Formatting. And then what we want is, here we'll change the color. So if it's not empty, we want it to be that, what was it? It was something like this. Nope, that's a little too dark. It was that. And we could hit done. X out of that. And then we could highlight all of this and go all the way down. Right click, Conditional Formatting, and then make it that light. Whoops, not the text. We want that black. That, if it's not empty, hit done. We could reset that. There we go. So now, because the conditional formatting is in, anytime we add stocks, then the colors will update as well. Just so we could test it. Target for a buy. 10 at $200. We go to positions. There we go. Target's now in there. I now have 17 rows and the colors filled in. If we were to get rid of Target, so let's say Target sell -10. When you do a sell, you have to do -10. You got to remember that. We'll say for, how about $210, made a profit. Look at that. Now there's only 16 rows. Target is now off my list. So we know everything works. Let me get rid of that. And the only other thing that I have in my positions tab for the change and then for the gain, I have different colors. I'll go back to my master one that I already have created. You can see right here, it's red and green depending on if it is up or down, and then my gain is red or green. So if you want to add that, it's pretty simple. Right click on one cell. So we'll start with E, go to Conditional Formatting, add a rule. And what we want to do is maybe a dark, not that. We want to do the text, dark green, bold, if it is greater than 0. Then we can hit done. We want to just bring that above. Oh, and actually, we need to make sure the color is the same. So there we go. And then we could add another rule. Do the same thing, except this time a dark red. Make sure that color is the same. And we want this if it's less than 0. Hit OK. Bring that to the top. And there you go. So now my change, if it's positive or negative, it'll reflect that with the colors. You could then do that for the change dollar, and then the gain, percent, and dollar as well. I'm not going to do it in here just to save some time, but it's exactly what I did for this one. But now that we finished this, so this is complete. History, if you want to go and make it whatever colors you want, I'll actually just put the color in right now. All right, so there we go. There's my color, and I'm just going to drop that down like that. So there, that's all in. So if I were to start adding more, then we know the positions is good. We know our positions and history are done. Before we go to the dashboard, let's just go to the breakdown because that is definitely the easier one. And we're going to create our portfolio breakdown. We're actually going to do it in positions. So we're going to go to Insert Chart. And we want a pie chart or a donut chart. I think that looks better. So add labels. What we want to do is then select a range. So I'm just going to highlight, and I'm not going to stop at 16. Okay, I'm not going to stop at Google. I'm going to keep going all the way down to where my functions stop, which is 100 in case I buy more stocks. So I'm going to hit done. And then we're going to go to our value, select range, and our value is going to be value, which is pretty straightforward. So we're going to highlight all the way down to 100 as well. Hit done. And there we go. There's all of my stocks. I'm now going to hit Control C to copy it, go into breakdown, and then hit Control V just to copy it in. We could then delete that one. So now we have this. We could double click, and we could add a title. If you go to Customize, and we go here, Title Text, Portfolio Breakdown. And I like to change that to black, bold, and center it. There we go. That's our portfolio breakdown. So we could bring it all the way up here, expand this out like that, and bring this down like that. So here's our portfolio breakdown. And again, what's great is if we go back to history, if we were to add, so you can see right here, we'll add Target, and let's say I put a crazy amount of money into Target. So we hit buy, I don't know, how about 100 shares at $200? Obviously, that's going to make a huge difference. That's 20 grand. You can see there's Target now, 22%. Nice big chunk. So let's get rid of Target. And now we can move on to the dashboard. The breakdown, if you want to add colors, you could do that to like the background. In my original one, I had like a light blue background. You could change the text size as well. But let's jump over to dashboard because this is going to be the last intensive part. It's going to take a little bit of time to build, but then you'll have your portfolio completely done. All right, so here we go. Time to create the dashboard. So first, we're going to start up at the top, and we're going to merge that. We're going to type in portfolio balances. It's going to be the first section we create. You can center this. And we are going to have account value, positions, cash, day change, unrealized gains. Just making sure I'm spelling everything right too. And then realized gains. Could widen that out a little bit. And now what function do we need here? Well, it's going to be pretty simple. For account value, we're actually going to be adding the positions and cash together. So we're going to do equals, and it's just going to be B3 plus B4. Obviously, it's 0 because we don't have anything in these cells yet. Now we could drop down to positions. Positions is another easy one. It's just going to be the sum. And if we go to positions, it's going to be row H. So the sum of row H. Hit enter, and there we go. 60,000. You can make that $sign if you want. Now cash. Cash is a little bit trickier. And the reason why is because there's a couple things we need to add. And it's all going to be coming from the history tab. It's going to be a little bit longer code. If you just want to copy and paste what I have in the description, go and do that. But it's going to be sum if, and then let's go to history. It's going to be sum if C equals deposit. So if we're depositing money, we want to sum it together. So deposit, and then we want row F because we want to take the totals of those deposits. And then we want to subtract that from sum if. I'm going to do in history again. So C, comma, withdrawal. Sorry for my Long Islander accent there. And then we want to do history F. So it could take all of the withdrawals that we have. And then we want to add, so sum if, history C again, cell, history F, close that, minus sum if, C again, comma, by, F. Close that. Now, if you do have a dividend where it's just cash that's being deposited in, you will have to add that as well. I'm not adding it because I don't have any of that, but essentially it would just be plus sum if, history C, in parentheses, you would in quotations you'd want dividend, comma, history F. So what we have here is it's saying take all the deposits, subtract it from all of the withdrawals, then add in all of the stocks I've sold, and then subtract all the stocks that I bought. And that is how we get how much money I have, which is $16,466 in my account currently. And again, this is all up to date and it's all dynamic. So if we say cash and we change that to deposit, and let's say deposit, I don't know, let's say I win the lottery and I deposit $1 million. Okay. So there's $1 million. Oh, well, actually, so I should explain this. The quantity is 1, so it's 1 deposit, and the price is where you're putting it in. So price, let's say I won the lottery, $1 million right there. If we go to dashboard, you can see cash is updated to $1 million. Let's say then I realize, wait, I need that $1 million because I'm buying a house. If we do withdrawal, making 1 withdrawal of that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 million, you can then see it updates. So right there. All right, so now that we know all of that works, let's actually just delete this. We can move on to the next one, but yeah, let me just explain. So the quantity, yes, obviously it's pretty straightforward with shares. If you're buying shares, so say it's Target, you put in 10 if you're buying 10 shares. If you're selling 10 shares, you put in -10. But when it comes to cash, you could see there's deposits here. You actually need to put down, hey, we're depositing, we're making a quantity of one deposit. So then we could generate that total price, which is just taking the price and multiplying it by the quantity. So don't forget that. I forgot to, briefly mention that. But now we can move on to our day change. So the day change is another pretty easy one. It's going to be another sum. And we're going to go to positions, and it's going to be F. So we're summing F together. And there's my day change. We can make that $. Our unrealized gains is another easy one. B equals sum. We go back to positions, and it's going to be J. So all of our dollar gains right here, because this is all unrealized. If it's showing up here, I haven't sold it yet. So there's all of my unrealized gains. And then we move on to to realized gains. This one is going to be a little confusing. It's going to be similar to cash. So here we go. It's going to be equals sum if. Let's go to our history tab. C, comma, in quotations, sell. And again, it'll be down below. You can just copy and paste. And meanwhile, you're copy and pasting or actually writing this all out, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Again, that really helps me out. We do now minus sum if. History C. You can see it's very, very similar to how we calculated cash. By, comma, history F. Close that. Minus sum if history C, comma. Now this is where we're adding drip into play. So drip or dividends. So if you have drip or dividends, you got to do it for both. I'm just doing it for drip right now. History. Row F. I don't know why I typed that in when I could have selected it. Then we want to sum. So we want to add to the sum of positions. So now we got to jump into positions and then G, the cost. So we got to add in our cost of everything. Oh, and I forgot right here, parentheses. There we go. We hit enter, and there is my unrealized gain, which is actually a loss right now. Again, I like that it's a loss because I get a nice little tax write-off. Nothing big, but at least I get to report that as a loss. And now we have all of that in. We can move on to portfolio stats. Now, my portfolio stats, you may or may not want to copy them. It's just, silly stuff that's cool to track. So I'm actually just going to copy and paste them to save time, and I'll walk through all of the little functions that I put in, but I'm not going to spend too much time on them because they're not like super important. So for my total number of trades, again, everything will be below, so you can copy and paste it, or you can just copy it right here and pause the video. But we're just counting all of the buys and all of the sells that I have. For shares owned, we're just summing all of my positions together. Position B, so the B section, which is here, it's just summing all the shares I have together. Then the average cost, it's summing all of the positions. Let's see, G, which one's G? Right here, all the cost, and then dividing it by B10, which is my shares owned. Number of deposits, it's just counting all of the deposits I've made in the histories tab. And then my money hourly salary. The only reason why I have negative 3,444 in this is because that's how much I made last year. So this is just counting for 2018. So if you're starting fresh, not 2018, 2020. If you're starting fresh, you don't need to do that, obviously. Instead, you would just do your unrealized gain, subtract it by your realized gain, or well, sum the two together, and then you divide that by 2,080. That's how many hours are in a 40-hour work week for 52 weeks in a year. That's the equivalent of what you're working a full-time job if you're working 40 hours a week. And then the dividend income is sum if history, drip history, and then you could add if you have dividend and drip. So if some aren't drip, then you just do add sum if history C, dividend history F. So again, I'm not going to take the time to write these all out because they are silly. All right, so now that we have all of that, we'll worry about the colors in a second, but we can add in our chart that we have. And the chart is pretty simple. We're just going to do insert chart. Not that one. I don't even know where it's getting that data. Let's try that again. Insert chart. There we go. We want to make it a pie chart. And for our labels, what I'm doing is I'm just pulling position and cash, hit OK. And then for our values, we're going to be pulling the position and cash. Hit enter. There we go. And then if we go to customize and we go to titles, I had it as my balance breakdown. And then we can make the text black, center it bold. I had the text bigger. Actually, I had the text a lot bigger. I think I had it like 30. And then what we could do here is we could also I changed the color. The background was that light blue. And then if we click on this, I actually changed the color of these as well. I made that like a dark blue. I think it was that one. And this was an orange like that. So that's done. So we could resize it. We could add that right there. Let's see. Right there. And then we could take these, bring this out a little bit, and bring that one all the way out to here. Start adding in some color. So I have it bold. I actually have everything here bold. So all of that, you could bold. This text was a little bit bigger, and this text was a little bit bigger. And then again for the colors. All right, so now we have all those colors. And then if you want to, you could do the conditional formatting for the text as well for your day change, unrealized gains, and realized gains. I think that's kind of important. And you want that to stand out. So that would just be the conditional formatting. And it would be greater than 0. You would then want this to be that dark green. And that to be the blue. Hit done. And then we could add another one. And then we want to do less than 0. Then you want it to be a red. Hit done. And you can add it to the realized gain and day change as well. That's why I have in this one. But I'm not going to do that right now just to save time. But now we're going to move on to that portfolio performance graph that I have. So I'm going to go to chart. I'm going to add another chart. And we're going to go to our x-axis, select range, jump over to positions. And remember, go down, all the way down to 100 or wherever your function is. So I'm going to go all the way down to 100. Going to hit OK. And now we want our series. So we click on it, go to positions. And now what we're going to want is our percent gain. Go all the way down to 100. Hit OK. And there we go. So at this point, you can mess around with the colors. Again, what I like is the background to be that, so everything just kind of matches. I want the columns to be that. And then if we want to add a title, do portfolio performance, or you can do individual performance, whatever you want to call it. Bold. Do that. Center it. Add the text bigger. Can hit OK. Then we could put it down here. We could stretch it out. So that's now there. Guys, we are almost done. I actually don't have it all the way down. I actually have it up a little. Something like that. That looks better. All right, now the very last thing. Everything is in except for our individual stock quote. This one's pretty simple to make, so we're going to start by merging C, D, and E together, and then F, G, H together. And this one, well, before we even jump to that, here we're going to type in 12-month trend. We'll click on that, and we'll do the colors really quick. White, bold, 11. This one is also going to be the same color. Text is white. Make sure this is there. We want to make that 11 and bold. That doesn't have any text yet. We will get to that. This is going to say stock quote. And then this is going to be some data validation. So you're going to go down to data validation. And we want to do a list from a range. And that range is going to be positions. And we're going to go all of our tickers all the way down to 100. Hit OK. Hit save. Now if we go back to dashboard, you can see there's all of our tickers. And because we did list from range and went all the way down to 100, if I were to buy another stock, it then gets added to this list as well. So we'll put Apple up there. And what we could then do to start is we could fill this in. Equals Google Finance. Spell finance right. So equals Google Finance. J1, which is where that is. Name. Close that. Hit equals. So there we go. Apple Inc. 12-month trend. Let me just fix the color here. And then I had this one, orange. And centered. Okay. So now at this point, we could highlight all of this and we can merge it all, make it that light blue that we've been making it. And you've probably seen this in another video if you've watched my other videos, but this is Sparkline. So equals Sparkline Google Finance. J1, which is where Apple is currently, comma, price, comma, today, open and close, minus 364. So this is taking the last 364 days, comma, today. Open, close, 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 hit enter, it's loading, boom, there we go. And we could even change the color. Whoops, wrong color. We could change the line. So if I want, not red, if I want an orange, there we go. So now the line's there as well. Just about done, guys. What we're going to do is actually bring this in a little bit. We're not even, we're actually gonna bring this out like that and out like that. So we can bring this all the way out. All right, so last one, I'm gonna try to make this rapid fire, just really quick, because this is all just a whole bunch of Google Finance formulas. I'm actually gonna copy it from here, where I already have everything. I'm gonna paste it. Don't want borders. Okay, so stock price is gonna be equals Google Finance J1, comma, price, and then change is going to be pretty much the same thing. So I'm just going to copy all of this. I'm going to paste that, J1, change, PCT, divided by 100, just like the last one. And then we actually want to take this, do a percent. And I'm actually going to jump over to the one I already have complete and just kind of copy everything in here, because this is just all Google Finance formulas. So we have the regular change price for volume. You can see Google Finance volume. Then this one is, this actually, so the market cap is a little bit different, so I will explain that. But let's do Google Finance for the volume. So copy that, paste it into here. So we're going to skip the market cap. We're going to go down to your 52-week high, 52-week low, our beta, which is just Google Finance beta, our PE ratio, which is just PE, and our EPS, which is EPS. Copy that and paste it in there. All right, and now I could explain the market cap. So you might be wondering, what is all this extra stuff I have in the market cap? Well, let's just do this and make this all of the same color and center it. And now I will explain market cap. So what I'm doing here is, you can see Google Finance J1 market cap. We got that, but then that's going to be that ridiculously long number, $2.2 trillion. So what I'm doing is I'm actually dividing that by a billion. And then if I do money sign and true NC, so TRUNC, put all this in quotations, and then do NB, that's what creates the dollar sign in front of the market cap, and then the B at the end. So I know, okay, Apple is $2,000 billion. Go to Facebook, it's $778 billion. Go to PayPal, it's $270 billion. Now, if you're dealing with, you might not want to do this if you're dealing with smaller stocks that are only, say $100 million or less than $1 billion. It's not going to look good. It's going to be 0. whatever billion dollars. You might not want that, but I never deal with stocks under $1 billion. So I could do this and it works out perfectly fine. But guys, that is it. We did it. This is every single part. Everything is completely dynamic in this. The only things I don't have in here is just changing the colors of everything else. So if I jump back to the original one I had, See how the change, the gain, the dollar gain. And then if we go to dashboard, this is all green and red. And even here, the change here is green and red. But this is everything. You gotta remember, every last part is connected. The only place you are plugging stuff in is in history. So say we get another deposit of money. So right now we have 16,000. If I were to go and do cash deposit one, say another $2,000, you could see that jumped up. That's now 18,000. If we were to buy or sell, I could sell all of my Shopify stock. This would be gone. It would change from the positions as well. Everything is connected. Guys, if you have any questions or if you're stuck on anything, rewatch the video, leave a comment. I'll try to help you out here. But that is it. I think this is a very helpful tool that everyone would get great use out of. If you sat through this entire video, kudos to you. Thanks for helping my algorithm. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Again, subscribe. I have tons of other videos dedicated to Google Sheets for the stock market and a bunch of other just regular stock market videos to teach you about different concepts or different parts of the stock market. And as always, guys, I'll see you in the next one.